Project Apotheosis. Project Goal: forcibly raise the dark heart into godhood. Background: gods are restricted from direct action on the material plane, instead having to work through designated agents and worshippers. They do not have free will, rather they have a nature, a set of rules they must abide by as directed by their overall purpose. For example, the most widely worshipped goddess of death, the Red Lady, acts as guardian of the moment of death and directs souls to where they must go. Her agents, powers, and directed actions on the material plane are all dedicated to that purpose. As such, she has a standing holy war against undeath or anything which can be unnaturally extend the lifespan of the creature using methods arcane, divine, or technological. She stands opposed, for instance, to Obduron, the god of undeath, who seeks to convert all life into undead. Gods are restricted by other gods and their own purposes, which is derived from the free worship of mortals. The more worshippers a god has, the greater their power. Gods exist in two forms: manifest and elevated. Manifest gods are minor deities who still exist on the material plane. These are often mortals who have risen to their position, or anthropomorphic manifestations of worship who have achieved enough power to be elevated. Manifest gods who were declared forbidden during the Unification War, due to the much more direct level of power and the much lesser restrictions on their use of that power. They were declared a threat to the Empire and eradicated. Killing an elevated god is nearly impossible. By their very nature, they have a large number of followers and no physical vessel to damage or destroy. One would have to stop all worship of the god, which would force them to become manifest. Then you would need to seek out and destroy that manifest body. While this can be done through the sheer volume of fire, which was the normal method used during unification to kill manifest gods, if you employ another divine or similarly powerful being, it can be done without resorting to mass destruction. Even if you do manage to kill a manifest god, the spark of divinity is impossible to snuff out entirely. It is believed gods can be resurrected by dedicated worshippers. Raising to being to godhood is prohibitively difficult. While being worshipped by enough mortals can do this, there has been at least one instance of a being having been raised to godhood artificially. The knowledge of how to do this is heavily restricted. As of now, only one being in the known galaxy knows the secret to this: Alvaron the Necromancer. Proposed goal: the destruction of the Dark Heart at this time seems entirely impossible. We built it too well, left it alone too long, and made a monster none can hope to stand before. As such, it was proposed to alter the nature of the Dark Heart, merging its 25 aspects into a singular entity, giving that entity a soul, and converting that soul to godhood. The power of the Dark Heart would mean that it would instantaneously become elevated. The theory being that baseline directives would be maintained: protect the Empire. Having a deity that is connected fully 1/4 of the galaxy, who is dedicated to the protection of the Empire, would be a great boon to the coming battle against the Swarm, and its restrictions as a deity would keep it from going out of control. It is hoped we could then begin recruiting the converted citizenry of the Empire to aid in fighting the Swarm as a nanite-enhanced army. It is thought this would bring the odds of success up to more acceptable levels. Theoretical procedure. The following procedure is summarized from the journals of Ark, the first great worm of the Iron Dragons, in the creation of the being known as Brenna, found in the library of Ace, the great worm of the Bronze Dragons. A soul must be harnessed, preferably a blank soul, one that has not yet been sent forth to inhabit a being of the material realm. Obtaining blank souls is monumentally difficult. A proposition that may be functionally impossible due to the difficulty provided, unless one is already in possession of such a thing. In theory, the soul of a child, one who died in childbirth or shortly thereafter, could be used. However, the soul would need to be free from any variety of corruption, of violence, or pain. A natural death of natural causes. Obtaining this is extremely difficult due to the presence of beings, gods, extraplaners, and others who seek to safeguard exactly that sort of soul from being harvested in any way. Once a blank soul has been obtained, it can be placed into the Dionysium soul orb. In fact, this may be the only way to safely transport or store such a thing. A soul that is not blank would bring its own ambitions, thoughts, feelings, and goals to the process, possibly corrupting the dark heart and changing the outcome in unpredictable ways. If such a soul can be obtained, it would need to be imbued with power and the spark of divinity. The power of divinity would be relatively straightforward, requiring one to obtain pure expressions of the elements. The elements used previously in order to create Brenna are listed as follows. Heart of flame, withdrawn from the core of a prime volcano in the plane of fire. Heart of water, withdrawn from the center of a maelstrom on the plane of water. Heart of earth, withdrawn from the core of a primal geode on the plane of earth. Heart of air, withdrawn from the center of a greater tempest of the plane of air. Light of creation, taken from a nova of the plane of positive energy. Light of destruction, taken from a nova of the plane of negative energy. And blood of a power, blood given or taken from a being of great power. The original donor was Ark himself. Other ingredients are listed, but they were used specifically to remove a vampiric influence of the child Brenna from one Machiavelli, the first known vampire. It is believed they would be unnecessary for this procedure. The original recipe does not call for a spark of divinity. However, it was not trying to create a god, but rather a being with all the power of a god and none of the restrictions. A weapon of such monumental power that nothing could possibly stand against it. It was noted in the journals that this was ultimately a mistake, as the old adage held true: power corrupts. To avoid this mistake, we would be creating a god soul. For that, we would need the spark of divinity, given or taken from a god. Preferably one as benevolent, but ultimately, one more dark god would hardly be nearly as terrible a problem as the swarm, or if the dark heart moves against the galaxy as a whole. Obtaining the spark of divinity. The easiest and most straightforward way would be to find a manifest god and convince them to sacrifice their spark. However, as most manifest gods have been killed and buried, they would be hardly likely to actually agree to such things. If a spark cannot be obtained through willing sacrifice, then one must be forged. This would require travel to the Galactic Center and striking a deal with mechanists to use the God Forge. To do this would require a ship capable of making the journey and a map of the route. The last people to make it into the Galactic Center were the group who manifested Aurelius the Golden Emperor. It is from that trip into the core that the Empire was born. It is said that such a thing was born out of only a small boon given by Mechanus. It is unknown what was paid for that boon. Once the spark of divinity is obtained, it can be added to the hearts of power, and the true God soul can be created. It is suggested that this God soul can be artificially implanted into one of the 25 entities of the Dark Heart, which, due to the connected nature of the entities, would be able to absorb all others as part of the ascension process, given that the 25 entities were never designed to be independent and are all instead part of a singular whole. The method of implementation would be through a revenant core developed and utilized by the Drow of the Underdark for generations. The secret of those items' creation is lost to the greater galaxy.